As we welcome Shabbat, as the night descends, it becomes dark outside, we light up Shabbat with light. So it's my privilege and pleasure to call our new partner to meet us in the candle lighting, leading us in one of the readings on page 20 or 21, and the candle blessing on page 24.
Please read responsively from the top, page 21. This Shabbat sheds light upon us, light for the days to come. We have leisure by which to see the world with new and grateful eyes. We have time now to look inward. And now we are free to embrace family and friends, to make our lives simpler and more complete.
We think of our homes and those we love, when we call to mind the duties and affections of home, how greatly are all blessings enriched, all cares and sorrows softened.
May the hearts of parents and children always be turned to one another, that our homes may be sanctuaries of love and devotion. May we use this Shabbat to bring happiness to our family life and blessing to our people. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher tishanu b'mitzvotav tzivanu v'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Page 24, the words of Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh of Hachaman, Yedid Nefesh of Hachaman, Meshochah Eretz Zoncha, Meshochah Yarutza together on page 27, at the top of the page. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness and time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. And as we think about this day of Shabbat, this day of creation, we sing a song welcoming Shabbat, the words of Lecha Dodi.
Yalla
Page 34. Ruth, would you lead us there?
How can I sing of day and night when it is God who formed them?
How can I sing of heaven and earth when it is God who decreed them?
How can I sing of mountains and hills when it is God who planted them?
How can I sing of seas and deserts when it is God who begot them?
And how can I sing of earth and its fullness when it is God who bade them be?
I shall sing to God who fashioned all and is beyond all. It is to God I shall sing. Page 36, as we rise for the words of Baruch Hu. Yahweh, the words of Ma'ariv Aravim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro Ma'ariv Aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, u'bitfunah mishaneh itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'msader et hakochabim, b'mishmarotehem barakia kirtzonah, orei yom v'layla, v'leil or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, Uma'avir yom, u'mevi laila, uma'avdil ben yom, u'ben laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid imlo chalenu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Praise you, Eternal One, who loves your people Israel, and we, your people, rise for the words of Shema Ve'ahavta, physically or spiritually, As we let these words enter our hearts, we commit ourselves to keeping the mitzvot of Torah. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch She'elot Shekevon Malchuto Le'olam Ha'ed. Baruch She'elot Shekevon Malchuto Le'olam Ha'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'ayu ha'dvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom alecha v'shirata levadecha v'dibarta v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'lechtecha b'derech u'shavtecha u'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot aledecha ve'ayutotecha u'teinecha u'tachtam amezuzot beitecha u'misharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני On page 42, we continue at the top with reading Aleph. Larry, would you lead us there?
All this we hold to be true and certain. The eternal alone is our God. There is none else. And we are Israel, God's people.
Our divine protector delivers us from the hand of human oppressors and saves us from the fist of tyrants.
He performed wonders without number, marvels that surpass our understanding.
You urge us toward life and revive us when we stumble.
He did wonders for us in Egypt, miracles and marvels in the land of Pharaoh.
Let your people Israel up forever to serve you in freedom.
When your children beheld your power, they praised you and gave you thanks. Freely they accepted your sovereignty, and Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you with great joy.
On page 44, we sing those words that our ancestors sang at the shore of Freedom Sea. As you redeemed Israel and saved us from arms stronger than our own, may you redeem all those who are still oppressed and persecuted. We praise you, Eternal One, Redeemer of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Hashkim Aleinu, Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Ve'amideinu, Shomreinu Lechaim. Ufros Aleinu, Sukkot Shlomecha, V'tadneinu, V'tadneinu, Be'etzat Tovam Milvanecha. Ashkileinu, Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Ve'amideinu, Shomreinu Lechaim. Baruch atah Adonai, Haporei Sukkot Shalom. Aleinu, Aleinu, Ve'akol Amo Yisrael. Ashkileinu, Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Ve'amideinu, Shomreinu Lechaim. To continue on page 49 with Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadash Shmei Rabbah. Ve'amad Yivrach Yirateh V'yamlich Malchuteh. V'chai Kol Yomecha. V'chai Kol Beit Yisrael. Ba'ada U'bizman Chaim. V'inaru Amen. Yirei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach. Le'alam Ve'halayah. Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitronam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Kedusha. Le'elah v'chol b'rchata v'shirata. We rise in body or spirit for the words of the Amidah, beginning on page 50. Adonai sivatai tiftachu fi yadi tzilotecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, V'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hadibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imot, U'Meni Geula V'Melehem, V'Leman Shemo V'Yahva, Melech Ozer V'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Olam V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gimor Elam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol Atah, Rab Moshiach, Mechalkel Chayei v'chayom yachasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaGadol. Please be seated. Frank, would you lead us on the top of page 54?
You are one, your name is one, and there is none like your people Israel. People unique from the earth. Regardless of glory have you given us, proud of salvation, a day of rest and holiness.
Abraham rejoiced in it, Isaac sang, Jacob and his children were refreshed by its rest. In this rest are love and sharing, truth and faithfulness and peace, quiet and safety. It is the perfect rest that you have willed.
May your children come to understand that this Shabbat rest brings life to you, that by it they may hallow your name.
And we pray together words of avodah, asking God to receive our prayers on page 57. Be gracious, eternal God, to your people Israel, and receive our prayers with love. May our worship be acceptable to you. Fill us with the knowledge that you are near to all who seek you in truth. Let our eyes behold your presence in our midst and among our people in Zion. We praise you, Eternal One, who brings your Shekinah to Zion. And we give thanks to God as well for our many blessings. On page 59, the words of Modim Anachnu Lach. Modim Anachnu Lach she'atahu Adonai Elohim. Modim Anachnu Lach she'atahu Adonai Elohim. Modim Anachnu Lach she'atahu Adonai. Modim Anachnu Lach she'atahu Elohim. Modim Anachnu Lach she'atahu Adonai. Modim Anachnu Lach she'atahu Elohim. Modim Anachnu Lach she'atahu Adonai. And on this Shabbat day, we pray for peace in the words of Shalom Rav, page 63. Shalom Rav, God of peace, let us know enduring peace. Shalom Rav, Israel, Hasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Israel, Hasim Le'olam. Ki atah melech Adam, lechol hashalom. Ki atah melech Adam, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Hasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Hasim Le'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. B'chol עת ובכל שעה ישתבחך. Shalom Rav, Yisrael, Hasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael, Hasim Le'olam. Hasim Le'olam. Hasim Le'olam. We take a few moments to pray the words of our own hearts. Page 65, Yiyu l'ratzonim refi. May the words of our mouths and meditations of our hearts be acceptable. Yiyu l'ratzonim refi ve'elyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri, tzuri v'goli, Adonai tzuri v'goli. We turn to our anthology of readings for Yom Hashoah, beginning on page 5. I have taken an oath to remember it all, to remember to forget nothing at all, forgetting nothing of this till the 10th generation, till the grief descends to the last to its endings, till the punishing blows are ended for good. I swear this night of terror shall not have passed in vain. I swear this morning I'll not live unchanged, as if I were no wiser, even now, even now. Kol halam kulo, gesher tsar mehom, gesher tsar mehom, gesher tsar mehom. Kol halam kulo, gesher tsar mehom, gesher tsar mehom. Page 7. Reading Gimel. When we came to Auschwitz, we didn't know about gas chambers. We were looking at the sky. It was red. There was a bad smell. We didn't know what was going on. One of the men who collected things you had with you told us that 5,000 Hungarian people just went into the gas chamber. That's how we were introduced to that. 5,000 people straight from home. Can you imagine? You have to be strong to take that in. Page 14. It is for your sake that we are slain all day long, that we are regarded as sheep to be slaughtered. Rouse yourself. Why do you sleep, Eternal One? Awaken, do not reject us forever. Why do you hide your face, ignoring our affliction and distress? We lie prostrate in the dust, our body clings to the ground. Arise and help us, redeem us, as befits your faithfulness. Page 16, the words of Ani Ma'amin, I believe. Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin, Emunah Shleima, B'vi'at HaMashiach, B'vi'at HaMashiach, Ani Ma'amin, Be'af al pi she'yitmam be'iyad. page 18. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Page 20. And yet, even in the inferno, even there were those we called Chasidei Umot Ha'olam, the righteous of the nations. Some gave their very lives to keep Jews from harm. Who can measure such courage? When so many were afraid to act, they bore witness to the greatness men and women can reach. Look and take heart. If ever such days return, remember them and find courage. Consider what can be done, what must be done, not to banish from our souls the image of God. Let the righteous who were faithful be remembered for good. By their deeds they have inscribed themselves in the book of life. Page 26. Here I stand, the Jew marked by history, for who can count how long? Wrapped in compassion as in a talit, staring every storm in the face. Write songs of pain, sing prayers of torment, refresh yourself with suffering. Too much for one people small and weak, it is enough to share out among the whole human race. But God has planted in me goodness, compassion, as a mother loves her children. So I writhe with pain, weep and sing, sing and weep. For the blood knows the heart of the world is not made of stone. The wonderful light of God's face is for all eternity stamped on it firm and deep. And the heart feels that there is a day and an hour in a mountain called Zion, and then all of the sufferings will gather there and will all become song, ringing out into every corner of the earth from end to end, and the nations will hear it. And like caravans in the desert, will all to that mountain throng. Together we rise in body or in spirit for the words of Hatikvah. Kol balevav penima, nefesh yehudi omiyah, ufatei mizrach kadima, ayin l'tzion Sophia. Oh Lord, tikvateinu, hatikva shnot hamayim, liot hakoshi be'artzeinu, be'eretz Zion Yerushalayim, liot hakoshi be'artzeinu, be'eretz Zion Yerushalayim. We are fortunate this Shabbat and as we observe Yom Hashoah, as we remember and we vow not to ever forget the lives of those whose lives were taken in cruelty. We resolve always to be inspired to learn more about those who lost their lives, individuals and communities, to recall their memories so that they will not suffer a double death, and that those memories will inspire us to hallow our own lives and to live meaningful Jewish lives to help ensure that part of who they were will endure always. And so this year we are pleased to welcome back a guest that has been with us before here at Solel, Lois Roman. Lois is a Brandeis University graduate who earned her MBA from Columbia and began her work originally with the Memorial Scrolls Trust Foundation that oversees the legacy of the Czech Torah scrolls that survived the Shoah. And so she's been with us in that capacity. She is also speaking tonight on a new project that she has been working on, and I had the opportunity to interview her this last week so that she can share with us what she has been doing to share memory of those who lost their lives and also to point lights into the darkness for the future. Well, Shabbat Shalom to Lois Roman. We're welcoming back our friend Lois Roman. She's been here before at Solel in her role as a trustee at the Memorial Scrolls Trust, and tonight she's here for a different reason. As we are observing Yom Hashoah this week, we are delighted to welcome Lois. She has been studying for a master's degree during the past year and a half in Holocaust and Genocide Studies at the Emil A. and Jenny Fish Center at Yeshiva University in New York. And during this time, Lois has been producing a monthly video series, which is called Holocaust Remembrance Around the World, in which she and Dr. Shai Pilnik, the director of the center, interview people from around the world who are actively engaged in perpetuating the memory of the Holocaust in ways that resonate locally and with young people today. And tonight, we're delighted that Lois is going to share with us some excerpts from the Holocaust Remembrance Around the World series, some highlights of the interviews. And if you would like to see more of the videos in the series, we're going to share with you the link to the video archive. And I highly recommend that after our service tonight, sometime in the next week or so, that you go to that link and watch some of the videos. They are really quite interesting and inspiring. So welcome, Lois. We're so glad that you're back with us tonight, and wonderful to see the work that you have been doing with the Fish Center at Yeshiva University.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm so honored to be part of your Yom Hashoah commemoration and to share with you excerpts and discuss Holocaust remembrance around the world. This is a project that we started at the Fish Center about a year and a half ago, and it is a monthly video interview series where we find guests from all over the world in the most unlikely places that are shaping and reshaping Holocaust memory and education. The inspiration for this show was really a combination of seeing the rise of anti-Semitism around the world, both in minor acts and unfortunately major acts, and realizing that it's so important that we continue to talk about the Holocaust and educate not only adults but young people about what happened to the Jewish people during that time. And so what better moment than during Yom HaShoah week to share this series with all of you.
Wonderful that you're doing this work, and I'm wondering, what has inspired you to create this series?
Well, it actually snowballs, as most little projects do. When we started to find people from around the world and talk to them about the projects that they're working on, one person led to another, and we've now interviewed people from countries as far-flung as China and Japan, Mexico, European countries like the Czech Republic and France. And what we're finding is that these are just regular people. Most of them found their way to this at some point in their lives accidentally. And many of our guests are not Jews. Some are Jewish and children of survivors, but many of our guests are Christian, they're reverends, they're Muslims that feel that the Holocaust needs to be, to perpetuate in our memory so that it can avoid other tragedies to humanity in the future. And I'm not a professional filmmaker, but I tried to make a montage for you this evening that covers many different issues, involves people from many different lands. And as you listen to them tonight, you'll see that there are still examples of anti-Semitism all over the world, and that these people have really taken it upon themselves to figure out a way to make these discussions about Holocaust relevant in their local communities and also into the 21st century.
Well, that's a wonderful introduction to the series and a great introduction as well into the montage of excerpts that you've put together for us. So let's take some time right now to watch that, and then you and I can continue with a couple of questions afterwards.
Sounds great. So, Mikhail, you saw these images pop up in a store in Prague. On the left is a calendar for 2021, and I'm not a Czech speaker, but I believe it means personalities of the Third Reich. And, you know, in the center we have this mug with, you know, someone that we all recognize, and T-shirts. What was going through your mind when you found this, and what did you do about it?
I found, or a group of MPs really came together in the parliament, and they started and they initiated the change of law. Because according to Czech law, it is not possible to promote Nazism. But this guy who was selling this, he said, I'm not promoting Nazism, I'm just doing business. And I have no reason to promote Nazism. It's just, you know, I just want to make money, and I have nothing against Jews, and I am not any kind of supporter of Hitler or Nazism, but I'm making business.
One of the things that I have been trying to do is to expand the field of Holocaust education. The first thing I wanted to do was to show the geographic scope of how far the Nazis went to exterminate Jews. But I also wanted to expand that geographic scope to tell the story of what was going on with Arabs and Muslims and Africans under the Vichy government and under colonization. Why is that important to a young person? It's important for a young person because then we start to talk about race, power, colonialism, and how actually why the Holocaust becomes so crucial is that there's a lot going on during the Holocaust to Jewish people, but also in the world. As Yehud Bauer said, you know, it's a lessons for humanity.
אני מבקש מהם לעשות שלום. הם עונים, להיות חברים, כן? אני גם משתמש את הבובות.
בתיאטרון בובות.
כן. זה איך אנחנו עושים, ככה, כן? זה לא חבר טוב. והם ילדים, כן, עונים, זה מאוד מתקרבים, כן? והם מכבדים, כן? זה עם זה החברים טובים, כן? ככה אנחנו משתמשים, גם תמונות, גם בובות.
רברנט אצוקה. ילדים ביפן לומדים על הירושימה ועל נגסקי, הם לומדים על הפצצה האטומית, הם לומדים על הקורבנות שהובילו לסיום מלחמת העולם השנייה, על הבנייה של יפן אחרי מלחמת העולם השנייה. מדוע זה כל כך חשוב בעיניך במדינה שבה לא היו באופן היסטורי יהודים, ויש את הממוריאל בהירושימה? מדוע זה חשוב שגם ילמדו על השואה? בעצם איזה סיפור בעיניך השואה מספרת לתלמיד יפני שחשוב שהוא ידע?
כן, במאה ה-20 זה שני אסונים, כן? כן? הירושימה ונגסקי והשואה, אבל שניהם זה שונים לגמרי, כן? ומלחמות, כן, היו הרבה, כן? ואסון סכסוכים בין העמים, אבל זה השואה, זה מאנטישמיות, כן? זה במשך, כן, 2000 שנה. והיטלר נבחר בבחירות, והם עשו את חוקים, וגם הם עשו את כן, השפה. האסון, לפי דעתי, האסון של הירושימה ונגסקי קרה, כן, בתוך המלחמה. אבל השואה שונה לגמרי. אנחנו צריכים להתגבר, אנחנו צריכים לדעת על פרט אנושות. זה לא רק עושים את היהודים, אלא גם כל העולם עושים וגם מלמדים. יש לי חלום להכניס את כן, תוכנית, כן, קריקולום, כן, לכל בתי ספר. מה האנושות? מה האדם? כן.
And she always ends by saying, I thought that when the world learned what had happened to us, it could never happen again, but it did. And that is the bottom line, because after the Holocaust, the world said, never again. The United Nations was established after the Holocaust, and those words were said, but it did happen again. And Sylvester Sendakieya, that is a wonderful, wonderful survivor, he was 12 years old. Irene was 8 years old in the beginning of the war. Sylvester was 12 years old, and he lost his parents, his siblings. Only 2 of his brothers survived, and he survived with a machete scar on his skull. The killers, the perpetrators, left him dead, basically, in the church, but he survived, and a German nun actually helped him and saved his life, and then others saved him. And he always, when he tells his story and his testimony, he said, a genocide happened yet again to us here in Rwanda in full view of the world, and no one did anything. For 100 days, more than 1 million Tutsi were murdered, and the world did not get involved.
And so was this part of your motivation to go back in Guatemala and create a Holocaust museum? Was it so that the youth wouldn't forget, that they would learn about this topic?
What is amazing is that the government of Guatemala in 2016 passed the law to put the curriculum, to add into the curriculum the Holocaust.
Okay.
So Father Ewa, who is always a visionary, he saw the opportunity to bring this important topic. It was a good moment to bring this important topic to Guatemala. So we found a donor who gave a house, a beautiful house in the city center of Guatemala City. And Father was saying, well, let's talk to the Ministry of Education and see if that is something that they will be interested in supporting. And of course, when the Ministry of Education, they knew about this initiative, and the local Jewish community knew about this initiative, they were so happy. And this idea of building the first Holocaust museum in Central America was born. And then we realized that it's a challenge also to teach the Holocaust in a country in Central America. But we realized also that anti-Semitism is growing up. And then we realized also that there is a lot of immigration from these countries to the United States. And if we don't do education now to the young people, when they come to the United States, they will be very easily be part of this movement of Holocaust deniers and anti-Semitism that it's very strong and growing up in the United States. So I think that it's important that we do this work now, especially working with the Ministry of Education. We're touching this population that has less access to good education, which is the public schools. So most of the visits that we have in the museum are from the public schools brought by the Ministry of Education itself.
And that's what interests students, because we are talking about racism a lot around the campus. We're talking about gender issues, racial issues, we're talking inequities. All of these contemporary sort of problems and concepts and ideas can be taught with analyzing what happened during the Holocaust. And I think it's time for Holocaust educators to get excited, because this is our time. This is like, yes, we can do this, and we can talk about racism. We can talk about religious discrimination. We can talk about colonialism. We can talk about gender discrimination. I mean, there's so many things we can do. So I think the Holocaust itself actually encourages younger people to take for those lessons and to carve out their own projects. And to me, that's important to know.
I think that the message is very simple. It is in each one of us, you know, the ability to be a force to good rather than a force to evil. Always reflect on the choices that you're making. Always try not to be a bystander. Bystander always helps the perpetrator of evil, but never helps the one that suffers. So always try to be an activist for good. And if you do that, those circles of good will spread all around, and we can all become that change maker that I spoke about before. A change maker for good, I hope.
Wow, that is an incredible gift. And just from seeing the excerpts that we have that you've put together for us, what a journey. I'm really curious to hear what you have personally learned from creating this series, from meeting people around the world who are engaged in education about the Holocaust. You know, what have you gained from this experience, and what do you think that those of us that will now have the opportunity to see the rest of the series might learn?
My favorite parts of all of the interviews come at the end, when we ask our guests to bestow their words of wisdom on our audience. What would they like to say? And it's a very open-ended question. And I've learned so much from my guests when they have a message of hope, a message of do something, act, get involved, participate, don't be silent. And I realize that as much as I've studied the Holocaust and I've worked for a long time with the Memorial Scrolls Trust, talking about the artifacts that survived the Holocaust, that I probably don't do enough myself to stand up when I see something that's not right in the world. And I think the series has changed me in that way.
Well, definitely I can see how the series would have changed you and inspired you to continue the work that you do at the Memorial Scrolls Trust and now with the Fish Center at Yeshiva University. Is there anything that has surprised you in these interviews? Anything that really, jumped out at you, or like, I really wasn't expecting that?
Yes, the interview with our Japanese guest, Reverend Otsuka, you saw a little clip of that in the middle. When we were arranging for this interview, we expected that we would do the interview in English, and in greeting him and working with him before we recorded, his English wasn't as strong as his Hebrew was. And so it was a surprise to us that we conducted the interview in Hebrew. That was Dr. Shai Pilnik on the video that you saw asking him questions, and we used the subtitles. Even that, the concept that a Japanese man who has no ties to the Holocaust whatsoever lives in a country that didn't have direct involvement in the Holocaust. They did have involvement in World War II, but of course, those are really different wars, right? That he would go and become fluent in Hebrew, that he would start this Holocaust Education Center from nothing and take it upon himself to personally greet all of these children that come through his center is nothing short of a miracle.
Now that was really surprising to me as well when he opened his mouth and started speaking, and I thought, my goodness, this man is fluent. And even the more so when you're saying that he didn't really have any connections, but it seems that his sense of dedication to this mission, if you will, is so inspiring to him that he felt it important to learn the language of the Jewish people, to be able to speak and understand Hebrew. I was also really touched by his description of how he wants to educate kids and to reach them on a level that they can really understand. And that was true, I think, of all the guests that were on tonight's video montage, that people were really speaking about how it was important to connect in a space in a way that people can understand. What do you see about this series in terms of that? Like, I imagine that today we're in an age of media. And especially, I think, with young people, media is what reaches them. Do you think that this kind of a series or this kind of approach is what's going to bring the message to greater numbers of folks out there?
We're hoping that using video reaches people in a different way. Probably our interviews, which last about 40 minutes in total, are too long for today's young people. Perhaps we can figure out a way of making them into podcasts or TikTok videos, dare I say, so that younger people are interested in it. I think our guests have a lot to say, and the young people today are very concerned with social issues, and I really think that using these as a model and moving forward and continuing to strive to reach our young people through various electronic means is the way to go forward.
I was really struck too by the statement that we need to teach our youth now, and we need to do this so that they don't become misled. It seems to me as well that that's true for older folks too. I mean, it's not here in North America. We try to assume that at least most older adults have heard about what the Holocaust is and what kind of atrocities have been perpetrated, not only amongst Jews in the Shoah, but amongst others. And as well, there are atrocities that continue today. What do you think the impact in these different parts of the world has been? And what do you hope going forward will happen with the folks that you're interviewing?
Well, I think the impact has been huge. If you think back to the interview excerpt from Marco Gonzalez, who is Guatemalan, he's working in France with Yehud and Unum, which is an organization that takes testimony from eyewitnesses from the pit murders in Eastern Europe. But he also started the first Holocaust museum in Central America, in Guatemala. And as he explained, the purpose of that was to make sure that he was combating ignorance. And it's unfortunate that in many of our school systems today around the world, we are so pressed for time, and history keeps getting longer and longer, that we truncate what we teach about World War II and the Holocaust. And people just don't know about it. And recent interviews, there was a claims conference survey that was out just a few years ago that said most people can't name a concentration camp, most people don't know how many Jews were murdered in the Shoah, these are reasons that it's important to have videos like this series and others for everybody, for the children who've never heard of it, and for the adults who may have forgotten it or whose education was truncated while they were going through school.
Absolutely. And it is very clear from the different people who have chosen to take this on as a mission in their part of the world where maybe they don't really, interact on a daily basis or even much of their lives with Jewish people, that something about the Holocaust and the world's response and lack of response has really resonated. What do you think are the commonalities between these different people who have taken this on as a mission?
I think that they are just regular people, and they looked around and realized that there was a need to do something here. I'm always struck by Dr. Minaz Afridi, who was in the video clip from Manhattan College here in New York. She is a Pakistani-born Muslim woman who's teaching at a Catholic university and is head of their Holocaust Center. And if that isn't interfaith enough, I don't know what it is. Earlier in the interview, which I didn't include in the montage, she talks about her journey to this point in time, and it's just fascinating. She realized that not all of the countries she lived in taught about the Holocaust, and that many people that she was coming in contact with had never met a Jewish person. And she makes it a point now with her position in life to go into schools with particularly Muslim girls who may not have any Jewish friends, and basically be a role model and stand up in front of the class and say, here's what I do with my life, here's why we're studying this episode in history and why it's important to you. And she also puts together groups of interfaith groups of multi-generations. And at the beginning of the fall semester, she'll have 10 people in a group, some Jewish, some Christian, some Muslim, some relatives of survivors, some new immigrants to New York. And she puts them together and says, I want you to spend the next few months getting to know each other. Have dinner together. Talk with each other. Celebrate one of your holidays together. And what she's found time and time again is that when the participants emerge from this experience, they're friends, true friends, not, oh, that's nice to have met you. And that's exactly what is the purpose of this. And this is what I hear from all of my guests, that they want to make a change in the world. As Tali Nate said from South Africa, be a change maker.
And they are change makers. And that is the incredible thing about all of these different people who are from various backgrounds and don't know each other. And, this is what drives them forward, and it's what unites them, is to be the change maker. So you are being a change maker as well, Lois, in creating this series and bringing their stories forward. And I'd like to know what what one takeaway from this series that you feel that we can do to perpetuate the meaning of the Holocaust today in our communities and also in communities around the world.
I think that if everybody stepped forward in one little way to make sure that the Holocaust is being taught in your school systems, that we are, as you are, commemorating Yom Hashoah in some way to remind everybody about what happened, and to really try to make it local and personal. It's not something that happened in Europe to other people. It's something that we need to think about in our everyday communities today.
That's absolutely a wonderful message, and I think a very important message that is something that continues to happen today. I know that the various participants in this video series, for many of them, that is also what resonates. They see injustice in the world, they have experienced persecution, and they want to make sure that that is not part of our world going forward in the future. So thank you so much again, not only for creating this video series, but also for making the time to be with us again here at Solel. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future. For those of you that have joined us tonight as well, I hope you'll take a look at the link that we're putting in the video tonight so that you can go ahead and look at some of the other videos in the series. And as well, as I said, we'll put it in our media so that you can pick it up on our website or in our social media. Lois, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
So wonderful again to have Lois Roman with us, and I hope I know those of you are sitting in the sanctuary, you probably didn't grab that link, but we'll put it up on our website so that you can have it. And take a look at some of the other videos that has been produced in this series, really a great gift to the community and to the future of Holocaust education in many ways. So we're going to turn back to our service. We're going to turn to the words of Misha Berach as we ask blessing for those in need of healing. Page 133. And in our community, we are praying especially on this Shabbat for Shirley Herman, Esther Vokenmark, Rick Valentine, Simon Green, Marlene Friedman, Linda Levenheck, Jack Kudlatz, Francis Van Tyne, Suzanne Scher-Stimson, Bernie McLennan, Harriet Lockman, Ellen Becker, Nicola Proetti, Rebecca Vogel, Parker Kaiko, Philip Shepard, Carl Katz, Rena Rowan, Gilanda Ruzzi, Madeline Kitson, Kathy Kitson, Sharon Burr, Robin Burr, Dee Hickey, Lorraine DaCosta, Jack Richmond, Nettie Sandalovici, Adela Tsur, Al Lofsky, Michael Freeman, Ann Steinbach, Erwin Milgram, Evelyn Tyndall, and Ilana Miriam Bakhava and Daniel Black. I invite you to share names of those for whom you are praying on this Shabbat, or to hold those names in your heart as we pray these words together. May the source of strength who bless those before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. We are now in the second week of counting the Omer. This week is known as the week of Din and Gvura, of judgment and power. So in Pirkei Avot we read, Ben Zoma taught, Ezehu Chacham, who is wise, those who learn from everyone. Who is strong, Ezehu Gibor, those who control their instincts. Who is rich, Ezehu Ashir, those who are satisfied with their portion. And who is honored, Ezeh Mechubad, those who honor their fellow human beings. With those thoughts this week, we are about to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. We say, Hineni muchana mezuman l'kayim mitzvah aseh shel sfirat ha'omer. Kmo shekatuv b'Torah. Behold, we are prepared and ready to perform the mitzvah of counting the Omer as written in Torah. You are to count from the end of the rest day, from the day that you brought the waved Omer offering. The counting shall be 7 complete weeks until the end of the 7th week. You shall count 50 days. And we say the bracha together, which ends in the word al sfirat ha'omer, commanding us to count the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, al sfirat ha'omer, hayom arba'a asar yom, shehem shnehem shavuot la'omer. Today is 14 days, which makes 2 weeks of the Omer. Please join me on page 149 for the words of Aleinu. We rise in body or spirit. Aleinu shaleach l'adam ha'kol, l'ateitu l'o'etzeh b'reshit, asher samchanu le'ohet shalom, v'gor aleinu le'lich malchuto, v'anachnu korim 52. In the words of the poet Hannah Senesh, blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that burns in the heart's secret places. Blessed is the heart with enough strength to stop its beating for honor's sake.
Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame.
Especially on this Yom Hashoah, we remember all those who were killed, all those who were murdered and lost their lives al Kiddush Hashem for the sanctification of the divine name. We say the words of El Malei Rachamim for them. El Malei Rachamim Shochem Bamromim Hamseh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina V'malot Kedoshim Torim Kazora Harakim Masririm L'nishmot Revavot Alfei Yisrael Shenhagru V'nishtachatu Shechen Nechen Tu Shenisrafu V'shenik Baru Chaim Al Kiddush Hashem V'artzot Tachat Mamshalat Hanatzim Anal Bal Harachamim Hastirem B'seter Knafecha Leolamim Utzor B'tzor HaChaim Et Nishmotehem Ana Adonai Hu Nachalatam V'yanucha B'shalom Al Mishkavatam V'novar Amen. God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect rest under the wings of your presence among the holy and pure as the brightness of heaven. To the souls of the millions of our people who were killed, gassed, burned, and buried alive, who perished as martyrs in the countries of Nazi domination. Master of mercy, we beseech you to shelter them forever, and let their souls be bound up in the bond of eternal life. For you, O God, are their inheritance. May they rest in peace. And we say, Amen. We recall this week the names of the following, whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of whose death, occurs this week. Paula Cordes, the aunt of Roz Weisberg. Pauline Sales, the mother of Aviva Tamari. Nanette Moyes, the mother of Danielle Morel. Heinz Ruhl, the father of Lena and the grandfather of Emma Weisenbluth. Norma Kolbach, the mother of Michael, the grandmother of Ethan and Noah. Martin Kolbach, the father of Michael and the grandfather of Ethan and Noah. Samuel Cohn, the grandfather of Miriam Kahn. Rose Friedman, the mother-in-law of Harold Levy. Chai Zelda Stock, the grandmother of Les, the late David, and Jack and Esther. Abba Hozioski, the uncle of Les, Esther, and the late David and Jack Stock. Joe Laskin, the father of Brian, the grandfather of Jen Wernich and Marcy Laskin. Martin Hirsch, the grandfather of Tina Garay and the great-grandfather of Jack Baker. Charles Torchman, the father of Lise Brothman, the grandfather of Andrea, Amy, and Emily. Albert Weltman, the uncle of Rabbi Lawrence Englander. And we recall the names of the following that we remember on this Yom HaShoah. Aaron and Sophie Blatt, the grandparents of Jeanette Foyer. Solomon and Tilly Tsurik, the grandparents of Jeanette Foyer. Yaakov and Leah Hozioski, the grandparents of Les, Esther, the late David, Jack Stock, and Leonard Hozios. Dr. Laser Hozioski and Ida Hozioski, Shaya, Bluma, and Yamima Hozioski, Samuel and Sonia, Elfrida and Alexander Muskai, Ben-Sion, Avraham, Dora, and Leah Stock, Mota, Rachel, Laser Penn, Lena Penn, Sudarsky, and Samuel Sudarsky, of the family of Les, Esther, and late David and Jack Stock. Gershon and Gil Hertzberg, the grandparents of Roz Zelding. Pessel, Esther, Sarah, Alter, and Label Hertzberg, the uncles and aunts of Roz Zelding. David Phillipson, the grandfather of Diane Adler. Selma and Julius Phillipson, and their children Gunther and Hanacha, and Edith and Herman Heinemann, and their children Eva and Vera, the uncles, aunts, and cousins of Diane Adler. Simon and Nachum Tachauer, the grandparents of Marlene Tash, and the Zuckerman family, the aunts and uncles of Lee Bauer and the late Sam Brown. The Faderman, Taflowitz, and Pratt's families of Arlene Botnick and Lorraine Chelsky. The Barish and Miriam Schmilars, the grandparents of Eleanor Stock. Elkanah, Fagel, and Rivka Schmilars, the uncles, aunts, and cousins of Eleanor Stock. Hannah Fatal and Tova Fatal, the great aunts of Robin Sarudis. The Skoy family and the Fell family of Frank Kay. Fang family, cousins of Marlene Tash. The grandparents, aunts, and uncles of the Zeidman, Glott, and Skotnicki, Leineck families. George, Rosa, Ruth Herman, the grandfather, grandmother, and aunt of Gavin Herman. 157 Vantine family members of Leo Vantine's father's family. 160 Voss family members of Leo Vantine's mother's family. Janine Tortel's uncle, Victor Corey, deported from Paris, France. Dr. Les Kaufman and Jenny Kaufman, the grandparents of Les Rothschild. Dina, Rivka, and Kayla Kolbach, the aunts of Michael Kolbach. Beryl and Daniel Kolbach, the uncles of Michael Kolbach. Yaakov and Elka Kolbach, the grandparents of Michael Kolbach. We ask the mourners among us to please rise first, that we might say to you, Min hamakom tinachamu, may you find comfort in God's sheltering presence. Now, as a community, we all rise to support those who are mourning and to say Kaddish for those who have no one to say it for them. As we repeat these words hallowed by the generations, the words of the Kaddish prayer on page 159. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, u'v'chayei techol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olam me'almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrama v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei b'kudesha b'richu, le'elam kol birchata v'shirata, tushvachata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah v'yishmaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. U'sei shalom v'imramav, u'yasei shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all those who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, among all the people of Israel, and among all the nations and families of earth. And we say it together. Amen. Please be seated. It's my pleasure to call upon our board representative for the Shabbat, Roz Allen, our president.
Shabbat Shalom. So, announcements? Okay. Thank you to me, the board greeter, to Joel Brown and to Emma Weisenbluth for our tech support, and to Judy Miller for acting as shamus tonight. Upcoming services. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. we will have a bat mitzvah with Sydney Walker. Next Friday, May 6th, will be a regular Erev Shabbat service with observance of Yom Ha'atzmaut and a guest speaker, senior Israeli journalist Yaron Dekel. On May 7th, regular Shabbat service with the B'nai Mitzvah of Zoe and Daniel Gomberg. So that's exciting that we're having in-person B'nai Mitzvah again. Oh, this is important because this means I don't have to be president anymore. The AGM is coming up on May 2nd. And you guys get to have your say in the way the synagogue is run. So it's at 7 p.m. by Zoom. You can find the Zoom location in your monthly shamas, or contact the office if you have any questions. For donations to Ukraine through the WUPJ, the Reform Movement, you can look on our website for that link. Or you can donate through the UJA Toronto. And again, you can look on our website for that link or on the shamas. Next Friday, as I mentioned, is Yom Ha'atzmaut observance here. And you can find more details about that in the shamas On Tuesday at noon, we will be having a conversation with our Israeli friends across Congregational Reading Group. So that would be Monday, May 9th. We don't really understand why it says Tuesday and Monday. But it's in collaboration with Darkei Noam Ramat HaSharon. Same Zoom link used for every date. So if you go to the Shabbos, you can learn more about that. On Tuesday, May 10th at 11:30 will be a lunch and learn on the Scopes trial with Dr. Sylvia Solomon. Solel's book club will be updated in the Shabbos. Save the dates for the Walk with Israel, Sunday, May 29th, 2022. You can find a link to donate in the Shabbos. The UJA has been very supportive of us through COVID and donated a lot of our safety equipment. So support that if you can. Look at our Living Torah project. And I think that's it. So there's quite a bit going on here at Solel. And I'm happy to see it. So please come to the AGM most importantly. And Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Roz. And we'll conclude our service with Kiddush for Erev Shabbat, which you can find on page 163. It's my pleasure to call upon Gavin Herman, who's going to lead us in Kiddush. Please rise and join with him.
The whole universe, sky, earth, and all their array was completed. With the seventh day, God had ended the work of creation and rested with all the work completed. And God blessed the seventh day and called it holy. For with this day, God had completed the work of creation.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We wish you a joyous and peaceful Shabbat. Those of you that are gathered here at Solel, please join us for some Oneg Shabbat. Those at home, hope you have something nice for Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom all.
Thank you.